Welcome to the Putting Your Business on the Map podcast. I'm your podcast host, Landon Blake, a land surveyor living and working in Central California. Happy to have you here. Let's go ahead and dive right into today's episode. Hey guys, it's Landon. Welcome to episode 16. The title of this episode is Why I Don't Want to Buy Your Survey Business. This is part 2. So if you haven't yet, please go listen to part 1. This will make more sense if you listen to part 1. So let's just give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about 2 things you do as a business owner to destroy the value in your survey business before you sell it to me. So those obviously are things you want to avoid, but we're going to talk about what they are. 2 things I see over and over that that survey owners do before they try and sell their business, usually in the last few years before they try and sell. Number 2, we're going to talk about my BATNA as a potential buyer of your business. And don't worry if you don't know what a BATNA is, we're going to explain it. BATNAs are important. Number 3, we're going to talk about 2 or 3 things you can do to improve the value of your business before you sell it to me instead of destroying the value. So that's a good thing, right? If you improve the value of your business before you go to sell, you make more money in the sale, right? So that's going to help you. So a couple quick things. See, I'm trying not to work. One is I'm working on my word whiskers, so I'm trying not to say so I'll try and do a better job of that. It's a hard habit to break. 2, I noticed some popping. I bumped the mic a few times in the last podcast, so I'm going to try not to bump the mic today. We'll see how I do. 3, I want to let you guys know that this is some strong medicine. Again, this is a little bit like the episode we did on party chiefs and why the boss doesn't want to teach him cat. So there's some tough medicine in here for survey business owners that might be thinking about a sale. I'm not trying to be judgmental or harsh. I'm trying to help you. And it's in order to help you, I got to be honest, right? Being dishonest doesn't help anybody. Sugarcoating this doesn't help anybody. So there's some tough medicine in this episode, probably more so than in the last episode, than in part 1. But I'm doing it because it's important, and if you own a survey business that you might want to sell, you need somebody like me, a potential buyer, to tell you the truth so you can be prepared for that. So I just wanted to get that stuff out of the way. I'll try not to say or more than 30 times in this episode. We'll work on that. So what are we not going to talk about today? We are not going to talk about what your business is worth. That might be a separate episode. Maybe I'll do that in the future. We're not going to talk about if you should sell your business or when you should sell your business. We're not going to talk about any of that today. So if that's what you came for, skip to something else in your playlist. So those are interesting questions, and maybe we'll talk about those some more in the future. If you guys would like to hear more about selling or buying survey businesses, let me know. I try and pay attention to the feedback I get. So I got asked about profit sharing. I did an episode on that. Somebody asked me, a listener asked me about how you find clients. So I'm going to do some episodes on business development marketing. There'll probably be a half a dozen of those or so, because it's an important but complicated subject. There's a lot of depth to it, depth and breadth. But I'm going to talk about that. So if you would like to hear more about a particular topic, let me know. If you want to hear more about buying and selling businesses, survey businesses, let me know. We can talk some more about that. All right, so we're going to talk first about the 2 things that you do to destroy value in your survey business before you try and sell it. Now, I just want to be clear here. Survey owners do dumb stuff throughout the life of their business, but there's some specific dumb stuff that they do the last few years before they go to sell. And I understand why they do it, but I think it's foolish. And now, I respect their choice. I respect their ability to make that choice, that decision, but I think it's a foolish decision. And I think one of the problems we run into in our profession is you get somebody that owns a survey business and they think it's worth way more than it actually is because they destroyed the value the last few years. And so I want to just try and educate people a little bit about, what do I mean? What are the two things you do as a business owner that destroys the value in your business before you try and sell it? And I say destroy, but you could say destroy, you could also say extract. So you extract all the value and then essentially you try and sell me a carcass or a skeleton of a business. And I don't want to buy a carcass or a skeleton. Right? I want a business with some life in it. So let me just be clear. If you just want to retire and you don't want to sell your business, you just want to auction off the equipment and put all your employees out of a job, then you can stop listening to this. You don't need to listen to this. That's okay. If that's what you want to do. Just realize that whatever profit you make the last few years of the business, that's it. That's what you get. You don't get to extract all the value out of the business the last 5 or 6 or 7 years that you run it and then sell it to somebody like me as if you have not done that. And that's the pattern I see over and over again is survey business owners that want to do that. So they extract all the value the last few years and then they want to turn around and sell me the business at a price that pretends they haven't already taken all the value out, and that just doesn't work. I'm too smart for that, and most people like me that would buy your business are going to be too smart for that. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to turn down the volume on my phone notifications. And I apologize. I should have done that before we started, so I apologize about that. Okay, so 2 things you do that destroy value in your business before you try and sell it to me. And this doesn't happen in the last 2 weeks. This usually happens over a time period of a few years. So here's the first thing that you do to destroy value. You stop investing in the business. That's a big deal. To stay healthy, a business needs pretty continual investment. Now, you don't have to invest in it like you do when you start it. So my business is about 4 years old, a little over 4 years old, and I talk about this in the episode on profit sharing. We haven't profit shared yet because every dollar of profit we've made the last 4 years has gone back into the business because that's what you do when you're building a business. Now, one of the things we hope we're going to start doing is we're going to transition a little bit. We won't be growing as fast, and we'll be able to make a little more profit, we hope. But we're still going to be investing in the business. We just aren't going to do that at the same rate. So investment in a business is a little bit like, it's like oxygen. Yeah, that's not the right metaphor. It's like nutritious meals, You can eat junk food for a long time and not see some consequences, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. If you want to grow and be healthy, you got to eat good food, right? And so your business is like that. Investing in your business is like, exercising regularly and eating your vegetables, right? It's not, there's a cost to it. It's not always pleasant, but it's really important if you want your business to stay healthy. So that's the first thing you do that destroys the value in your business is you stop investing. Now I have some specific areas that you stop investing in. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to tell you 4 ways you stop investing in the business. And I believe I ordered these from what I consider to be the most important to the least important. So this first one is the most important. So you don't invest in your people. And if you remember from part 1, the last episode, the people are the most important part of your business. So if you stop investing in them, you're not growing the most valuable part of your business to a guy like me or a gal like me. So that's a big deal. So you have to keep investing in your people. They're the most valuable part of your business. Remember, I don't want your Windows XP computer or your 1998, Nissan pickup truck. I'm not interested in those. I can find those other places. What I am interested in is your team, primarily. So don't stop investing in your team. So how does this happen? How do you stop investing in your team? I'm going to give you specific things that you do or that you don't do. You provide little or no training. You provide little or no professional development. And those aren't the same thing, by the way. Training is not professional development. Maybe we'll do an extra, PYBOTM extra on that. So you don't do training. You don't do professional development, or you do very little of it. You're not having conversations with your folks about the future. You're not planning for the future, for either for your business or for them. And a lot of times you're not having those conversations because you don't have a good plan, or you don't want to lose people. You don't want to tell people, hey, I'm getting ready to retire, because you don't want them to quit. So you're not having conversations with them or planning with them for the future. You're trying to extract as much money out of the business as you can, as much profit as you can your last few years, so you're not making reasonable increases in compensation. That's one way that you invest in your people. And you're not making a real effort to keep people engaged or to make sure they're paying attention, because you're checked out or you're about to be checked out and you're not really worried about the long term. So why would your people be worried about the long-term health of the business if you're not worried about it? So in all those ways, you are no longer investing in your people. So just to review, little or no training, little or no professional development. You're not planning with them for the future. You're not making reasonable increases in their compensation, and you're not keeping people engaged or working to have them pay attention to what's actually going on with the business. So that's the first way that you stop investing. The second way is you don't invest in your marketing. Your one-page website was built in 1995, and you haven't touched it since. I see that. I see that in a lot of the businesses that I'm approached to buy. Yeah, their web presence is pretty horrible. Their website's pretty horrible. You aren't active in any non-survey professional associations or business associations. So you just don't make that effort. And I'm not talking about going to the local surveyor association meeting and drinking a beer and griping about stuff with a bunch of other crusty old surveyors. That's not marketing. So you need to be active, in your local chamber of commerce and other business small business associations. You do zero content marketing. You're not on social media. You don't have a blog on your website. You're not putting together articles or white papers. So you don't do any content marketing, which is really important in the modern economy. You don't have a brand. You don't have a brand. You know what your brand is. You don't know what your value proposition of your business is. You don't understand that. You never thought about it, and you don't understand what makes your business different. You don't know how to differentiate in the marketplace. So you do a horrible job at most of those things, probably. So why does this happen? Why don't you invest in marketing? Because it costs money, and you don't want to spend that money. Why spend money to get new clients if you're getting ready to exit? Well, and that makes sense. If you just want to, sell the business. If you just want to close the business, lay off your employees, and retire, then don't spend a lot of money on your marketing. But that's not a business somebody wants to buy, right? So marketing, again, it's like investing in your people. That's a cost that you have to. That's an expense you have to pay to keep your business healthy. And by the way, I just want a little side note here. Preparing proposals is not marketing. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. So I know some people listen to this and say, well, I do marketing. I prepare 5 proposals a week. That's not marketing. That's business development. They're different. We're gonna talk about that in the next episode, I hope. But yeah, proposals don't count. I'm talking about marketing is things that establish your brand and your reputation and generate leads. They're not proposals. Okay, the third way that you stop investing in the business is you don't invest in your professional network. And so we talked a little bit about this, but you have little or no presence on social media as an individual, not as a business, but as an individual. You aren't mentoring people, especially outside of your business. Mentoring is a great way to build your professional network. You're not cultivating relationships with business partners. That could be land title professionals. It could be civil engineers. It could be utility locators. Other folks that you might get onto a project team on a bigger project. You're not working with those folks. You're not talking to them. You aren't cultivating relationships with potential clients. Well, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you investing in your professional network? Because it takes time and effort, and you don't want to spend that time, right? For the same reasons you don't want to market or invest in your people. And as I said before, I'll say it again, that's okay if you don't want to sell your business. If you want to sell your business, part of the value that you bring is the professional network that you and your business have. So you have to spend time to invest in that. And then finally, the last thing is, so this is the fourth way you stop investing in your business, is you don't build new capabilities. in your business. And I'm not talking about buying a new total station every 10 years because that's not new capabilities. So you're probably doing things the same way you did them 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years ago. And I got a news flash for you. The world's seen major changes. The economy's seen major changes. And your business probably hasn't kept up. That's a problem for me as a potential buyer. What that means is your business is slow, it's inefficient, and it's not able to solve client problems like your competitors that are investing in their capabilities. So, what a question you can ask as someone that might want to sell me your business is, what major new capability have you added, either internally inside of your business or externally, capability that you provide clients in the last 5 years? Have you added a major capability? I mean, I can tell you the last 4 years at Redefine Horizons, we've made a ton of investment in new capabilities, in UAV LiDAR, in being able to help with CEQA and land use planning, making our people point cloud literate and GIS capable. So we've invested a ton. That's where a huge chunk of our profit has gone, is into building major new capabilities as a business. That's just over a 4-year period. So have you done that once in the last 5 or 10 years? Have you added one new major capability as a business? The world is changing, and if you haven't thought about and made an effort to add new capabilities, you are way behind. You're way behind. And I don't want to buy a business that's way behind. Okay, so that's the first way that you destroy value, is you stop investing. Let me take a quick break here and take a drink of my yerba mate. Okay, what's the second way? The second way you destroy value in your business: you don't let go of control. And I know that's hard. It's something I struggle with personally as a business owner. But you're probably really bad at it. Most of the surveyors I talk to that are sole owners of a business or a small business maybe with just 2 or 3 partners, they're really bad at this. And I understand. It's scary to let go of control. It carries some risk, right? People could leave if you give them control. They could use that against you potentially. They could quit and take a client, or take some information about your business processes. It can be difficult because of our personality or character traits. Most business owners have what they call type A personalities. They have strong personalities. They like doing things their way, and I understand that because I'm that way. That's part of what makes you a good business owner, at least initially. But as you get towards the end of your career, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And it's vital to start letting go of control if you want to sell your business. Now, why is that? Think about that. Think about the logic behind that statement for a minute. If you remember from the first part, last episode, I told you the most valuable part of your business is the people. If you're not letting go of control, your people aren't going to be ready to run the business in your absence, and that's going to be a problem for me as a potential buyer. I want a team that is ready to take over your business. That's the most valuable thing I'm paying for. So, in what ways do you hang on to control? And this is bad, remember? So I'll give you a couple examples. You don't train or allow other people in your business to do high skill tasks. So you're doing most of the high skill tasks. They're doing the field work or they're doing the drafting, but you're doing all the high level stuff, right? You're developing the proposals and the scopes. You're managing the contracts. You're taking care of the billing. You're resolving the boundaries. You're doing the least squares adjustment. So that's one way. Another way is you don't allow anyone else to talk to your clients. And you do this out of fear. You fear that if you do that, the employee might leave with that relationship. So you don't let anybody else in your business build friendships and relationships with clients. Just so to be clear, what that means is when you exit the business, that relationship will likely die. And that's going to be a huge concern to me. I want to buy a business where somebody on your team, other than you, already has a good relationship, a warm relationship with the client. That's going to help reassure me that the client is going to stick around, right? And that's the second most important thing I'm paying for. So I'm paying for your team and I'm paying for your client both. Now I'm going to try and do a PYBO Team Extra that talks a little bit about how you hang on to control, especially in that area, high skill tasks, and I'll give you some more examples of high skill tasks, and we can talk a little bit about how you can avoid that trap if you're interested in that. So we'll try and talk about some practical ways you can do that. All right, let's see here. Moving on. Let's see. The last thing, I'm sorry, there were 3 things. The other thing that you do to hang on to control is you don't allow anyone else to make decisions in the business. So you don't explain your decisions when you make them. You don't ask your team for input. You don't let people make small decisions and learn from their mistakes. So you're not teaching them. You're not teaching them how to make decisions. You're not teaching them. And I'm not just talking about technical decisions. I'm also talking about business decisions. So it's both. You know, how do you resolve this boundary? How do you deal with this conflict or encroachment? You know, should we do a cost of living adjustment this year? How much should it be? Should we hire this person? Yes or no? Should we take on this new client? Yes or no? You know, now we don't do a perfect job of it here at RH, but we do work really hard to try and involve our people in those kinds of decisions all the time. And it's not about running a democracy, because I told you before in the episode on transparency, I don't run a democracy, I run a benevolent dictatorship. The reason we try and involve people in those decisions is because we're trying to teach them to make decisions, and that's how you do that. And so again, just to mention, I'm not just buying your client book, right, or the workload that you have from your existing clients. I'm also buying your team's ability to execute that work. And that's important because I probably don't have the bandwidth to take on an extra $1 million or $1.5 million worth of work next year. Right? If I'm going to buy your business and take on that work, you have to have a team in place that can help me execute that work. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll do some of the math and talk a little bit more about that in a PYB OTM Extra, I hope. Okay, that brings us to the second part of the episode, which is what is my BATNA? As a potential buyer, you need to know what my BATNA is. That's an important tool of negotiation. So what is BATNA? BATNA is an acronym, B-A-T-N-A. BATNA stands for my best alternative to a negotiated agreement. That's my BATNA. So in other words, if I can't make a deal with you, what's my best alternative? So I want to just explain a few things here about my BATNA. So I don't work for you. What that means is my job isn't at risk, right? So if your business just fails, you know, if it just disappears, I'm not going to be harmed by that. I might actually be helped by that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so I don't work for you. This is one reason why I don't think you should buy the survey business you work for unless there's been a long-term plan to do that. You know, I think if you work as a mid-level manager or a senior surveyor and your boss gets cancer and is in the hospital and tries to sell you her business, that's a bad negotiating position for you as the employee, and I think it's a bad idea usually in that particular circumstance. So I'm not that person. I already have a business or a job. I don't need yours. And if your business fails, I'm not going to lose my job. So you got to remember, I don't really care if your business closes. I don't, because I'm going to be okay if it does. And that's true. You know, if you're talking to somebody, maybe you're talking to a potential buyer. They don't own their own survey business yet, but they're employed at another business. They're kind of in the same boat, right? That organization probably has a more stable future than yours, right? You're looking to make an exit. So unless you're talking to somebody at another business that's about to close, they probably don't care if your business closes either. So you have to remember that. A potential buyer is not under any obligation to save you or to save your business or to save your employees. So you have to remember that. And then if you're talking to somebody like me, you got to remember I already own my own business. So buying your business is only going to complicate my life. It is not going to make my life simpler. Now, it might still be worth it. It might still be worth it. But I'm gonna look at that really critically, right? So let me be super clear. I want to say that one more time. I have a business. Buying your business is only going to make my life more complicated. And I want you to realize too that a lot of times mergers and acquisitions in our profession and related professions do not pan out well. They don't go well. And so I'm very cognizant of that. We'll do a whole separate episode, I hope, in the future about mergers and acquisitions in surveying and civil engineering. But they don't work out well. So I'm already super skeptical. And you might have something that's worth the hassle. But let's be clear. It's going to be a hassle. It's going to be complicated. It's going to create extra stress for me, no matter how well you and I try and execute that. So remember my BATNAs, okay? My BATNAs are, I keep the job I got or the business I got. That's pretty low risk, right? Buying your business is way more risk than that. I can start my own business. If I don't already have one, I can start my business. It's probably less drama. I don't got to deal with you and your baggage. It's easier to start a business now than at any time in history. And then, either way, whether I own my own business or I start one, when you close, I'm going to scoop up some of your good clients, especially if I'm in the same area that you are. So I can pay you for your client book, but I'm not going to pay you very much, because if you go away, those clients are going to be looking for somebody like me anyways. Now, your client book's worth a little bit, because, if I don't buy your client books, then I'm not going to, my competitors will also get some of your clients. And so I might be able to elbow them out a little bit if you and I work a deal, but I'm going to get some percentage of your clients anyways. And I'll just, as a side note, I just want to let you know, I've seen this. This is already happening to my company. We've been approached a couple times about buying some small survey companies up in the Sierra Nevada foothills, which is about 45 minutes to the east of us, and we haven't bought any of those businesses for some of the reasons I've talked about. And we're doing considerably more work in that area in the last 2 years, and it's because those companies went out of business and they didn't find a buyer, and we have picked up some percentage of that work. So you gotta remember, that's part of my BATNA, right? Is I can just wait you. I can wait you out. I can wait you out if I'm patient. I got 25 years left in my career. I can wait you out. You'll fold up at some point, more than likely, and I'm gonna pick up some of that work. So I want you to think about this for a minute. My BATNAs look pretty good, and that's why this is important to understand. I don't have to buy the business. I just don't. I don't have to buy your business. I've got some pretty good alternatives. So you have to remember that when you're negotiating with me, right? You gotta make me a good deal. You gotta really have something you can sell me. Now look, I'll be honest with you. There's some big engineering company. So there's two ways you can sell your business for more than it's worth, I think. One is you sell to a big engineering company that doesn't know better, or they have money to burn, and I invite you to do that. We had a company here in Oakdale. That's what the guy did. He owned the business for a long time. It was like a 3 or 4 person shop. He didn't have a transition plan. He sold to a giant civil engineering company. I'm not even sure why they bought. I think they bought the business just to get the LS, to be honest. They got the LS. They probably paid way too much. He rode off into the sunset. That's cool. You want to do that? That's great. That actually helps me. It helps me when my giant engineering friends pay way too much for small survey businesses. So that's one way you can do it. The other way you can sell your business for more than it's worth is you find a sucker. And that's usually some poor fool that's working for you, that's scared about his job and doesn't know what he's getting into. He doesn't know how to realistically value your business. So you might be able to con him into a deal like that. I mean, I've seen it happen over and over again. I don't want to be that type of human being, but a lot of people can sleep at night knowing that they sold their business for twice what it was worth to somebody that worked for them for a long time. So you can do that. You can sell to a big engineering company. They'll overpay because they've got money to burn. You can sell to a sucker. But if you don't have those two options, then you're going to be dealing with somebody like me, and I've got pretty good alternatives, right? So you just have to remember that. Okay, so I know I mentioned this before, but I want to mention it one more time. Just to be clear here. You have the right to do what you want with your business. So if you want, you can extract all the value from your business before it dies. But then you can't turn around and expect to sell it for top dollar. So let me just be clear. If you lower the amount you invest in your business, that results in lower costs. That results in higher profit in the short term, not in the long term. You can run that model for a few years. So you can take your profit margin from 15 or 20% to 40%, by cutting investment in the business in the ways that we talked about. You can extract that extra profit for a few years, but you are going to destroy the value that I want to buy. So you have to choose. You can do that, or you can leave that profit in the business and get it when you sell. And it's just, you got to make that choice. It's a trade-off, and I don't know, depending, there's a lot of other things that factor into this decision but besides money. How much do you care about the people working for you? Do you care about your legacy? Do you care about the next generation of surveyors? If it's just a cold, cool dollar calculation for you, then extract the value out of your business. But then don't get upset when you do that for 5 years and then nobody wants to buy it, right? Because that doesn't work. I'm not going to pay top dollar for a corpse or a skeleton, so you can't be angry or insulted when I don't want to do that. And guys, that's part of the reason I did the episode is that's the reaction I get. A couple times a year, I talk to a surveyor in his 60s or 70s, and he wants me to buy his business. It's usually a man. He wants me to buy his business, and I have a conversation with anybody. I have a couple conversations with them, and they're insane. They want an insane amount of money for a business that has almost no value. And I tell them that respectfully, yeah, I don't want to buy your business. And they get angry or insulted, and it's silly. They have put themselves in that situation. So if you're going to run that model where you cut investment to lower your costs so you can squeeze out the higher profit, then when you get ready to finally call it quits, you get to the sale price of your business is whatever the physical assets are worth, right? And I'm going to do a PYB OTM extra on this. If I'm going to come in and buy those assets from you as a collection, I want a discount because there's going to be stuff I don't want. If you want the maximum value for every piece of equipment you have, every physical asset, you got to spend a year selling that crap on eBay. That's how you get maximum value. And it's okay. You have time. You're going to retire. You'll be retired. You have time to do that. I don't want to pay you top dollar for all your junk and then have to deal with the hassle of selling what I don't want on eBay. I don't have time for that. I have higher value ways to use my time. I'll just go to the same internet site that you do and buy exactly what I need for a good price. So I'm going to do a PYB OTM extra that talks a little bit about what the physical assets in a survey business will be worth. But I want to be clear. If you extract all the value out of your business the last few years, that's what you get. When you're all done and you're ready to hang up the towel, you get the value of your physical assets minus some discount rate. That's what it's worth. Okay, so I wanted to close with 2 or 3 things you can do to actually increase the value of the business before you sell, and that could be its own episode. But I want to cover briefly here. I just want to cover those things, and you've probably figured them out. At least 1 or 2 of them you've figured out. So one is don't stop investing. Right? We talked about that. You need to keep investing in 1 or more of the areas we talk about. That's not free. It costs money. I recognize that. But you have to be able to do that if you want something that's actually worth selling, a business worth selling. And by the way, document those investments so you can prove to me as a buyer that you've made those investments. I want to know what kind of training and professional development have your people had? What kind of marketing efforts have you made? What kind of pay raises have you given your people? I'm going to ask those questions. The second thing is, and I think this is really important, build relationships with potential buyers long before you want to sell. Start working with other surveyors that might be interested in acquiring your business. Build a relationship with somebody like me. We can work together. If I work with you for 2 or 3 or 4 years and I get to know you and I get to know your business and I get to know your clients, I'll be way more willing to sell. That way reduces the risk and uncertainty for me as a buyer. So do that. And I'm going to do a PYB OTM extra on what that process looks like how you could build relationships with potential buyers. And then the third thing is start the transition plans early. Don't wait. Don't wait until you got stage 4 cancer or kidney failure. That's what I see surveyors do over and over and over. That is a stupid mistake to make, and it's selfish. It's selfish. You are putting yourself ahead of your wife, your family, and your employees. Don't do it. It's stupid and selfish. Plan early. And I'll just let you know, I'm only 44, I've already optioned 10% of my shares to one of our younger team members here. And I'm looking for an opportunity to option another big chunk, another third or half of my shares in the next few years. By the time I'm 50, I want all my shares in RH to be optioned out to the next generation. Like, I'm not waiting. I'm starting right now. I'm 44. Okay, so don't wait. All right, so that's going to wrap things up. Just to review, what did we talk about today? We talked about the 2 ways you destroy value in your business before you sell, right? You stop investing and you don't let go of control. We talked a little bit about what my BATNAs are as a potential buyer, right? BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And then we talked briefly about 3 things you can do if you actually want to increase the value of your business before you sell. Remember, don't stop investing, build relationships with potential buyers, start transition planning early. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know there was some tough medicine in this episode, and it can be a sensitive subject. Some people are going to be upset. I'll probably get a little bit of hate mail, but I think it's important to talk about it. If you guys want me to talk more about buying and selling survey businesses and transition planning, let me know. We'll do some more episodes on that topic. So in conclusion, I said again, try not to do that. The next episode is number 17, I believe, and the title of that episode is What Should You Do When Someone Quits? I think that's a really important event for a small business. It sends strong signals that you need to pay attention to. So we'll talk about that in episode 17. Then after that, I had a surveyor friend of mine, ask me about how you find new clients. It's a great question. It's a huge challenge for new survey businesses. So I'm going to do a set of episodes on that. I probably won't do them all sequentially, but I'm going to work them in the queue here the next few weeks. And so the first one I will do will be episode 18, I believe, and that's going to be what is the difference between business development and marketing. I'll probably do an episode just on content marketing, and I'm going to do another episode about how you can control qualified leads and control your proposal costs, because I think that's important. So it's a super important subject, and I think a lot about it. So we got those episodes coming up. So number 17, what you should do when someone quits. Number 18, what's the difference between business development and marketing. I look forward to talking with you guys about those. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. As we wrap up the podcast today, I want to do a couple things. I want to let you guys know where you can find the podcast, and I also want to let you know how you can support the podcast if you've enjoyed it. So let's start with that first thing. Where can you find the podcast? The podcast lives on the web at landonblake.com/PYBOTM. So if you go to my website, landonblake.com, up at the top, you'll find a menu. Go to Learn. It's the second link in the Learn menu. That'll take you right to the podcast. We have got links to download all the episodes there in MP3 format, and we also have the show notes. You can also find the podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@PYBOTM. All of the episodes are also uploaded there. We have the podcast on Spotify, so you can find the podcast in all of those places. Second thing, how can you support the podcast? There's a few different ways you can do that. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, reach out to me with an email, phone call, or text message. We can talk about your job opportunity for senior land surveyors, or if you have a high quality product or service for land surveyors and mappers, we could also talk about that on the podcast. You can also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or Spotify. Tell a friend about the podcast. Share one of your favorite episodes on social media for us. And then finally, if you'd like to make a real difference, you can go to the On Point Workshops page at Patreon. We've got a tier there, membership tier for $20 a month. You can join and support the podcast, and you get extras. We call them PYBOTM extras there. So we try and do 1 or 2 extras from each episode, video and audio, as just a little thank you to the folks that support us for $20 a month. So if you got the price of a medium pizza in your budget and you want to support the podcast, the best way to do that is on Patreon. That will help me pay for Carly. Carly is the virtual assistant and digital marketing extraordinaire that helps me with all of the unseen back-end work on the podcast. So editing, maintaining the web page, doing the show notes, that kind of stuff.
Carly's great. I'd like to keep her around. One way you can help me do that is by becoming a subscriber or a member on Patreon. So appreciate everybody that's done that already, and I also appreciate the thank you notes I've gotten from several of you for the podcast. That makes a difference. I know everybody's busy. I appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy schedule to send a thank you note. So please support the podcast, and we will catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks.